Hey guys, this is the second episode of this program. In this episode, I will discuss about the macrocode de-obfuscation using Vbscript debugger. The audience level I'm expecting is a normal internet user and mid-level analyst and some background with the programming language. Now, before we discuss the de-obfuscation, what exactly is obfuscation? There is a good definition on this Wikipedia page on software obfuscation. It's a detailed uh, definition on the software obfuscation, along with the history. As we can see, the first obfuscation code was written in 1988 into a contest. So you can go through this page to read more about the obfuscation. But later in this page, we have this section on the advantage of obfuscation and disadvantage of obfuscation. Mostly we use obfuscation to protect the trade secrets or the intellectual property because it makes the reverse engineering difficult. But on the downside, it's a good thing for the malicious programs because obfuscation will make the reverse engineering difficult, and as well as the detection of those samples difficult. Now, like the detection softwares, they work on a very simple mechanism. Like every time they see a file, they try to match the signature of known viruses with that file, right? So signature is like a DNA or a fingerprint of the virus, you can say, right? Now the problem is that with the obfuscation, the code is different, right? So that signature or that fingerprint will not work after the obfuscation. And it also depends on the layer of obfuscation. Obfuscation can be into multiple layers. That will make it even more difficult for the detection. Now, in very simple words, let's say that we have a machine, and the logic in the machine is that whenever it will see a red wrapper candy, it will put that into the red bucket, and a yellow wrapper candy into a yellow bucket. And let's say that we now, instead of the red and yellow, let's say that we send a blue wrapper candy to the machine. Now the machine know how to differentiate between a red wrapper and a yellow wrapper, but the same candy is now into the blue wrapper. The candy is the same, but there is only a change into the wrapper, but the machine do not know because it cannot recognize the blue, right? So in that case, the machine will not make any decision. Similar to that, the obfuscation will basically act as an wrapper to the actual malicious code, and the detection technologies, depending, it's on certain circumstances, may not be able to identify the actual malicious code. Now there are multiple and different technologies like sandbox that mostly detects based on the execution of the of the file, but I'm more I'm more talking about the detection from a signature point of view, and the detection of the code itself, not based on dynamic analysis, right? So obfuscation is more of a wrapper onto the actual malicious code. All right, so this is basically the obfuscation. Now the infection method remain the same. The malicious documents are mostly delivered through email campaigns or email attachments. The attacker send the social engineered email to the victim with a malicious attachment or a malicious web link. Like in this case study, Hades ransomware, it was not the attachment, it was a malicious web link that was sent into the email. right? And once the victim open the malicious attachment or the web link, they will download the malware from the website and execute onto the victim machine, right? So it's a standard and normal infection method. Now, in the case study, I will discuss the Hades ransomware that was discovered by Proofpoint, and password protected doc files that we observed recently. Now, I have written a very detailed document of on this on the website, Netscope website, so you can find more details on this page. But for this demonstration, I will just discuss the analysis of the dropped VBS file. Okay, so I can actually show you the Proofpoint blog as well. So this is the Hades ransomware, and if we go later in the section, we can find the ISEs and the samples. It looks like my internet is not working properly. I think it's a very good blog. Actually, you can go through this and can find the samples. Yeah, it looks like my internet is really not working. Okay, no problem. All right, so now the code that we will use for this analysis to extract the macro from the documents is from the previous episode. We developed the code using Oli VBA into the previous episode. So I will use the same code to extract the macro from the document. We can go on this link, and okay, so we have this code that we developed into the previous video. So I will use the same code to extract the document file, right? Okay, so let's jump on to the analysis. Now I have this virtual machine, XP virtual machine here, and I have already copied these files on this machine, and I also have a Ubuntu machine that I will use to extract the macro code from the document file. Now if we open the password protected file, it is asking for a password, but we do not know the password in this case, so it will fail. But the good thing is that the macro code is not really password protected, so we can extract the macro code, and then we can analyze that macro code into the Vbscript debugger. So what I will do is that I will quickly extract the code from this file, and all right, so we have this code. Let's put this code into a text file. Okay, and now we can open the file macro.txt. Okay, now we see these are some of the analysis commands from the program, but we do not really want these commands. We only want the code section for the debugger, right? So we just copy this code, and we can use this the Vbscript debugger, okay, the Microsoft Office Word 2010. And as I said, that with this developer tab, we can go into the Visual Basic editor into my previous episode. We can enable this option by going to File, Options, and this Customize Ribbon, and the developer checkbox in this, by enabling this developer checkbox in this window. Okay, so now we have this developer tab here, and we go to the Visual Basic editor. It will give us this window, and if we double click on this document, it will give us a editor window. So we'll paste our code here. Now, as I said, that this is a multi-stage infection chain. So what I will do is that I will run this program and I will collect the dropped VBS file, and then we will do the analysis of that file. So it's a okay. So in general, we have this document.open function or the auto open function into the macro code. The purpose of these function is that every time we open a file, they will run. They are like the first thing that will run as a code. So it's a good thing that if we search for the open function and then put a breakpoint on that by just doing a click on this section of the window. Now it's a breakpoint here, right? Now one of the important thing that we have to realize here is that it's a dynamic execution analysis, and the best practice and the recommended thing is that do not try these things on the work machine. It's a very dangerous thing. Try these things into a very controlled environment, like I'm using the virtual machine in this case. So with the dynamic analysis, we should not analyze the malwares or try this demonstration or this stuff or even the debugging onto the actual work machine. Always use the virtual machine. All right, so before we execute it, I want to show some of the important windows. So if we go to the view, we see this immediate window. This window is very important to display us the debugging logs. And if we go to the another window, locals window, it will give us the value of the local variables as we move on to the programs. All right, now here we see some of the control buttons that are useful for like break and stop, reset and start. Now in this case I will just go ahead and start the macro. Okay, now as you can see that we had a breakpoint onto the document open function. Now we are this yellow marker is basically an indication that we are on the breakpoint, and on the locals window we can see some of the local variables. Yeah, so let's start the process explorer. Now in this case, what this file will do, that it will drop a VBS file onto the machine, and that VBS file is basically the main payload that will do the malicious activity. So what I will do is that I will just go ahead and run this code and wait for the VBS file, right? So I will just run this code, and as you can see that there is a new Vbscript file with an argument to some file into the app data folder. Now this 29621.vbs. So I will just kill this process. All right, and I will just go and collect that file from app data folder. All right, yeah, so this is the file, and we just copy the code similar to the code that we copied from our Ubuntu machine, and again we'll paste that code into this window. Okay, now we see that we have this code into this editor, but one of the things that we need to see here is that we don't know the start function, right? In the case of previous code, we had this document open or the auto open function where we know that the code will start from this point, right? But in this case we do not really have that open function. So one of the way is that we can directly go into the static analysis and can identify that code section or that function that will go and run at the first step, that we have to run at the first step. And or the another is that we can try a brute force on different functions. It's not that great, but it will just do the analysis purpose. I mean, just for the analysis purpose, we can just try the different functions. But before that, we go and try the execution of different function. If we do a very little of static analysis, then we can see that this function is taking some of the strings and returning something. Now here we can say that it's doing a create object, but we do not know the name of that object, right? Now in this case, it is passing some strings to this function, and probably this function is returning some object that we are creating with, I mean the code is creating with this line. Now this is like common with every function. So this is basically the decoding routine or decryption routine. It's most likely a decoding routine, but it can be a decryption as well, depending on the code, right? So what we will do is that we go into this bar. This is a declaration bar where we can find the number of functions that we I mean, we can select these functions, we can go and we can see their code. So in this case, we want to try this out, this function, right? So this is the function, and we want to go to this function. If we go to this function and we do a little bit of study, then it is doing something like doing some and also calling some other functions. But what we can do is that we can write a debug statement here. It's a normal print statement here. Now there are two methods to do that. One is the message box. It's a normal prompt, like a normal message box prompt with the content, but we cannot really copy that content from this message box. So the recommendation is to use debug.print statement with this variable, and now it will print the values of this variable into the immediate window, or all of the debug.print will go into this immediate window. All right, so if we go a little bit up, and we can start the execution right now. As I said, that right now we do not know that which function is basically the main function to start the execution. Now, since I have done the analysis, I can actually point out that function, but let's do a brute force and start the functions one by one. All right. So we will start the process explorer just to see if it is creating any processes, and then we will start the this. Okay, so in the window we are getting a couple of names, and we will try one by one. So we'll start this. It is saying file not found. Fair enough. So so it is like creating a it is displaying some output.fin and cmd.exe start. It try to start something, and scripting file system object. So probably it is reading some file and then try to create a process out of it, but at the moment the file is not available, so it is just saying that it is just we can run it again and saying that file not found. Okay, it's a pretty good information, and we can actually try the next function. All right, so if we try the next function, it is doing some wscript.cell. It means that it is launching something. If we go a little bit up, then we see that it is launching a ping 88 and 250. Now this is basically to delay the execution into the sandbox environment, because 250 is kind of 5 minutes of delay for that for the program, right? So it's one of the delayed execution mechanism. But what we do is that we will kill the process here, and if you kill the process, then there is nothing is into the immediate window. So it means that this function is just responsible for creating a ping process just to delay the execution. Now if we go to the third function and we run this function, we see that it's not displaying anything, so it's not doing anything, and it may be the function is maybe taking some arguments or some variables from another function, so it may not be the right function to execute, right? So what we will do is that we will go to the fourth function now, and we will run the code. Now in this case, we see some of the output which is similar to the second function that we saw. Now it is creating a ping process again to delay the execution. We will kill the process, and then after that it is doing some more stuff, right? So it is connecting to the URL, and it's creating some XML HTTP object to send a request. And yeah, so this is like a pretty good information, like it is connecting to try to connect to this URL, then it will download this the file from this URL, and then it will execute that file as we saw into the first function when you executed, right? So from this analysis we can say that the function that is important is this. It is the first function because it is launching the ping to download that to delay that execution, and then connecting to the URL to download the file, and after that's successful, then it will actually execute that file, right, that we saw into the first function. Now it's saying the file is not found, right? So as we can see, right, so this is basically giving us a pretty nice information and all of the things practically we want from this this code. Now the only part of this code is to download this file mg.txt and execute this file, right? So, and in this video I am just talking about the analysis of the microcode, so I will not go into the analysis of this file. I will discuss that in my upcoming episodes, how to do the exe analysis. But if we use the debug print statement, like we just use only one debug print statement for this function, and we successfully de-obfuscated these strings and the URL that the malware is using. So it's a pretty powerful thing, because we are using the Vbscript debugger for this, and the debugger is the most stable thing we can find for de-obfuscation, right? So this is basically the first part of the de-obfuscation. Now I have one more case study that I want to discuss. It's the Hades ransomware. Oh, actually I was supposed to demonstrate this one first. But anyways, yeah, so the Hades ransomware was discovered by Breakpoint, and it is also, the code is also obfuscated in this case, and I can actually show you that. Now it is asking for an enable content, but we do not really want to enable that content right now, and we will go into the Visual Basic editor. As we can see that there are some strings that are likely to be encoded, and we see, right, so there are some of the things that are obfuscated here, and we want to know what exactly in these strings, right? So what we'll do is that we can, if we go to this document, we have this again document.open function, and it will again call this function module1, this function. So So from this code we have pretty good understanding like which function it will start, and we can go ahead and put a breakpoint on that code. But yeah, so in this case as well, one of the method that we can use right now is just to copy this code directly from the editor and then open a new editor window to analyze this code. We cannot analyze the code in this window itself because it will say that the macros are currently disabled, so it will not so we have to enable the macro, but we don't want to enable the macro in this case because it will just run the code. Now what we will do is that we can just directly copy this code from this editor, since it is not really a password protected document, so we can just open the code into the debugger, or we can use our previous method, like we can extract this code from our this Ubuntu machine, or the code that we use to extract the macro for the password protected document. Now in this case what I will do is that I will just go ahead and copy the code from the Vbscript editor itself. Now module 1 is important one because in this it is just a document open and it will just call this function. So I will copy the code here and I will open a different document, a fresh document basically, and I'll go into the developer, Visual Basic Editor, we double click on this thing and we have this code right here. Okay, so so as we can see from a very quick static analysis, we can say that this is the function is basically responsible for decoding, because similar to the previous code, this function is used everywhere to get the output, I mean the decoded output. So what we can do, like even in this case, like create object. So create object is like a very good point to identify which function is decoding, or because it is supposed to get the name of the object, right? So what we can go is that we go into this window and we will select this function, and we can analyze if you want, like what exactly is doing, and we can rewrite the algorithm in fact, but that's not the purpose right now we want to achieve. What we can do is to we go and we just use the debug.print command, and we use this variable to print into the initiate window. Now in this case we know that this was the function that it tried to execute. So what we can do is we will just put a breakpoint on this function, and we can just try out this thing. Now we can also go step by step, like F8 is step into is basically F8 step, or it's shift F8. It's more like an OLEDVG kind of thing, but in this case, since I want to quickly look into the information, I will just go ahead and I will run this program. But we can go by line by line, like by F8 I can actually go to the second line. I can do this with F8 and can analyze the actual encoding and decoding things. But right now I just want to quickly see what exactly is inside the document. Now it is asking me for a doc1 to this file. Okay, what I will do is we will save this file, and now it is saying that runtime error 404440. Now automation error. So it's perfectly fine. So right now we saw that save is because of the active document.save. It was asking for that thing. And we see some of the output into our immediate window. It is saying that it's a it's creating some Wscript.cell object which is mostly related to the execution of the binaries. And here we see a very important command like PowerShell, execution policy bypass, Windows style hidden, and enc is basically to take the base64 string. Now since this is a XP machine, so PowerShell is not really installed, so we got that message because we got this automation error message mostly because of the PowerShell, right? So okay, because of the PowerShell. Now we know that it is executing the PowerShell and it is using the enc the parameters, and this enc parameter is basically encoded, which takes the base64 encoded string, right? So this is basically a base64 encoded string, so we can just go ahead and copy this file and copy this this string, and we can just go onto online. We can find out something for decoding, right? So in this case, looks like my internet is not really working. I will just turn off and turn on the internet. I don't know, it is just doing some problem today only. Okay, so we just go Base64 decode, okay, and we can put this thing and we have the result here. So we copy the code and do some sort of formatting on this code to see what exactly is there. So we just replace this with nothing, replace all, right? Yeah. So what exactly this code is doing, that it's launching this as PowerShell parameter to download the file from this URL and then to start the process from the temp, because it will save the file onto the temp, and then download the that file onto the system. Now it is saying like x86 or 64. I have not done that analysis into the code, so if it is checking if it is 86 or 64 but for the machine, I don't think that it is doing that sort of analysis right now. But the thing is that it will download the file from this this URL, and it will store the file with this name, and then it will execute the file, right? So it's a pretty good information from the analysis point of view, because now we know exactly what this macro code is doing, even if the macro code was obfuscated. Now this is a normal mechanism to do the debugging, and debug.print is like a great help for debugging purposes, and Vbscript debugger is also a pretty powerful and very mature debugger for macro debugging, right? So I think that's pretty much for this episode. I know that the length of the videos is pretty big, but it's okay. I think I want to demonstrate things in more detail. Okay, all right, guys. Thank you.